The slasher genre hit its peak back in the 80s. This subgenre is known for sticking to a pretty specific formula: a masked or disfigured killer stalking and taking out a group of teens, usually with knives, machetes, or some other kind of sharp weapon. They usually attack on a specific holiday date, and the kills? The gorier, the better. Another must-have? The final girl. The one who survives it all and becomes the story's main heroine. Just when it seemed like the slasher craze was dying out, Scream dropped in 1996 and brought it roaring back. That movie checked every box and ended up raking in a massive $176 million at the box office, off a budget of just $15 million. Its success lit a fire under Hollywood producers, who quickly jumped on the chance to bring a similar story to life. That's how we got I Know What You Did Last Summer, a loose adaptation of a 1973 novel by Lois Duncan. While the original book leaned more toward thriller territory, screenwriter Kevin Williamson gave it a full-on slasher makeover. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because he also wrote the first two Scream movies. So now, let's dive into everything that goes down in this killer trilogy. On the 4th of July, 4 friends, Julie James, Ray Bronson, Barry Cox, and Helen Shivers, are celebrating their high school graduation at a local festival, where Helen is crowned queen. Later that night, the group heads out to the beach, spending time as couples before they all go their separate ways for college. But the good times take a dark turn when, on their drive back, they accidentally hit a man on the road.
I didn't see.
If it was a deer, then where is it?
Maybe it ran off.
Things get even more tense when their friend Max nearly stumbles upon the scene. After a heated argument, they make the life-altering decision to dump the body into the ocean.
You got car trouble?
Actually,
Thinking they've gotten away with it, they all swear to take this secret to their graves.
I'll never mention it again.
We make a pact.
yeah, okay.
Right here and now we take this to our grave. Agreed.
1 year later, just before the 4th of July rolls around again, Julie returns home for the summer. It seems like everything's behind her, until she gets a chilling anonymous letter that reads, "I know what you did last summer." Shaken, she turns to Helen, who doesn't believe her at first, but eventually joins her to talk to Barry.
When did you get a gun? Somebody knows, Helen.
What are you two doing here?
Hi, Bear.
The three of them then confront Ray. At the docks, where Ray works, Max becomes Ben Willis' first victim. He gets killed with a fisherman's hook, the same one used for gutting fish. Ben drags Max's body away into the fog, setting the tone for what's coming. When the group brings Ray into the loop, he brushes it off and refuses to get involved. Later that night, Barry is leaving the gym when he realizes his car is gone. Suddenly, he's chased down and hit by the same mysterious man. But instead of finishing the job, the killer just injures him and disappears, adding fuel to the fear that's spreading through town.
What happened? Somebody tried to kill you last night. We have to go to the police.
No, he wasn't trying to kill.
David. What do you think?
The group starts digging for clues and ends up visiting the home of Missy Egan, the sister of David Egan, the man they thought they killed. She seems clueless, but casually mentions someone named Billy Blue, which sparks even more suspicion.
Oh, yeah, he was a really nice guy. He was cute and smart. Helen, we killed a man and then ruined the lives of everyone he knew.
It was an accident.
Hey! You forgot your cigarettes.
That night, the killer sneaks into Helen's house and hides in her closet. By morning, she finds her hair chopped off, and her prom crown placed ominously on her vanity. She calls Julie in a panic. On the way over, Julie hears something in the trunk of her car. When she opens it, she finds Max's crab-covered corpse inside. But by the time she gets to Helen's and brings her back to the car, the body's gone.
Don't even. He was there, god damn it, and he was wearing your jacket, Barry. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
The group meets up again, and now Ray becomes their prime suspect. He's the only one the killer hasn't gone after. On the 4th of July, Julie visits Missy again, hoping to ID Billy Blue using an old yearbook. Meanwhile, during the town parade, Helen and Barry are distracted by several people wearing fisherman-like outfits. Julie realizes too late that they've been wrong about the killer all along. At the pageant, Helen is on stage while Barry watches from behind the scenes. She sees the killer sneak up and murder Barry with the hook. She screams, but by the time a cop checks it out, the killer is already gone. A cop offers to take Helen home, but they cross paths with the killer, who pretends to have truck trouble. The cop gets taken out, and Helen makes a run for it, finding shelter at her sister Elsa's store. But the back door's unlocked. As Elsa goes to close it, the killer ambushes her and drags her body away silently. What follows is a tense chase through the store. Helen escapes and almost reaches the crowd at the parade, but just before she can scream for help, the killer catches up and brutally murders her. Meanwhile, Julie confronts Ray at the docks and realizes his boat is named Billy Blue, the same name Missy mentioned. She panics and runs, thinking Ray is the killer. A fisherman knocks Ray out and offers to help Julie. She boards his boat, only to realize too late that he's Ben Willis, the man they hit last summer. Now the whole story unfolds. David Egan was dating Ben's daughter, who died in a car accident. David survived, and on the anniversary of the crash, Ben killed him in a fit of revenge. On his way home from committing that murder, he's the one the teens accidentally hit. They mistook him for David and dumped his body in the sea, only he wasn't dead. Ben now stalks Julie on the boat, trying to kill her, while Ray regains consciousness and jumps aboard. Julie hides in the icebox and finds the dead bodies of Barry and Helen, screaming in horror. Ben finds her, but Ray fights back, striking him with a pulley. During the final struggle, Ben's hand gets caught in the boat's rigging, and one of the hooks slices it clean off. He's then launched into the ocean. Later, the sheriff tells them they couldn't recover Ben's body. When asked why he was after them, the teens lie and say they don't know. But as the boat's net is lifted, Ben's severed hand is still clutching his signature hook. Fast forward a year. Julie's now back at college. She gets a letter that looks eerily similar to the one from last year, but this time it's just an invite to a party. Relieved, she heads into the dorm showers, only to see "I still know" written on the steam-covered mirror. Out of nowhere, Ben jumps out, and the screen cuts to black. A year after the terrifying events involving Ben Willis, the survivors, Julie James and Ray Bronson, have managed to rebuild their lives. Julie is now in her second year of college, while Ray has spent the last 2 years working as a fisherman. The story picks up just before the 4th of July break. Julie is in class when she suddenly wakes up in a panic, shaken by a nightmare where she tries to confess everything in a church, only to realize the priest is actually the hook-wielding killer.
I know what you did last summer.
After leaving class early, Ray shows up unexpectedly, trying to convince her to return to their hometown for the holiday. But Julie refuses, admitting she still hasn't gotten over what happened there and continues to suffer from frequent nightmares. Back at home, we meet her best friend Carla, who quickly notices how tense and exhausted Julie is. Hoping to lift her spirits, Carla invites her out to a nightclub along with her boyfriend, Tyrell. There, they run into Will, another student who seems to have a crush on Julie. As the night progresses, Julie believes she sees Ben Willis lurking on an upper balcony. She rushes to confront him, but when she gets there, he's gone. Shaken, she decides to call it a night and heads home. The next morning, Carla and Julie hear a radio contest offering a luxurious 2-day trip to the Bahamas for 4 people. They enter and win by correctly answering the question. Excited, Julie calls Ray to invite him, but he turns her down, despite the tempting offer. Deep down, Ray is planning to surprise Julie with a marriage proposal. While on his way to visit her, Ray comes across what looks like a car accident on a quiet road. He gets out to investigate, only to realize, too late, that it's a trap. The hook-wielding killer ambushes and kills Ray's friend, then crashes into Ray with a car. Ray barely survives, suffering a broken arm. He's rushed to a hospital where he regains consciousness and immediately suspects that the Bahamas trip is another setup by Ben Willis, putting Julie in danger. He escapes from the hospital and trades the engagement ring he had planned to give Julie for a revolver. But it's too late. Julie has already left for the island, and now Ray must find a way to reach her before it's too late. Convinced that Ray isn't coming, Julie decides to invite Will instead. Carla brings along her boyfriend, Tyrell, and the 4 of them set off on their trip. When they arrive, they find the hotel completely deserted, no tourists in sight. They're told that hurricane season officially starts the next day, which coincides with the exact 2 days of their stay. Although a bit disappointed, the group decides to make the most of their time there.
I spend blue skies all day. It might be perfect all weekend.
I'm 202.
Yeah, well, we won a competition.
Oh,
Guess the capital of Brazil.
Rio.
good for you, girl.
That same day, the hook-wielding killer eliminates the island's boat caretaker and one of the hotel maids. Unaware of the danger creeping closer, Julie, Will, Carla, and Tyrell head to the hotel bar and try to lift the mood with some karaoke. But as Julie sings, the lyrics on the screen suddenly flash a chilling message. Horrified, she tries to explain it to the others, but no one believes her. Shaken, she heads back to her room while Carla and Tyrell sneak off to the hotel jacuzzi. Back in her room, Julie finds an envelope with her name on it. Inside is a note that simply reads, "Surprise," a prank Will had set up. After unintentionally scaring her, he apologizes and leaves her alone to rest. But as Julie gets ready for bed, she senses something is off. Following her instincts, she starts to inspect her room. From inside her closet, she notices a small trail of blood dripping. Suddenly, the ceiling collapses, and the body of the boat caretaker crashes down. Terrified, Julie screams, drawing Carla, Tyrell, Will, the hotel bartender, and the manager to the room. But by the time they arrive, the body is gone. Once again, no one believes her, and they begin to suspect she may be losing her mind.
Is it all funny?
I saw the dockhand guy hanging by his neck in there.
That night, Ben Willis claims another victim, the hotel's pool cleaner. The next morning, rain pours down over the island. Trying to shake off the horror from the night before, Julie and Carla decide to distract themselves by hitting the gym and tanning beds. But their attempt at normalcy doesn't last long. Carla discovers the maid's body stuffed inside an industrial washing machine. Meanwhile, Tyrell and Will find the pool cleaner's corpse in his shack. At last, they realize Julie was telling the truth all along. Now fully aware of the threat, The group scrambles to stay together, but the killer takes advantage of a moment when they're separated and sneaks into Julie's room. He locks the tanning bed she's in and cranks up the temperature, intending to kill her. Julie starts screaming, and her friends manage to get to her just in time. They rush to the hotel office to call for help, only to find the manager's lifeless body. To make matters worse, the island's only radio has been destroyed. On the wall, written in blood, is another message: "I still know." Overwhelmed by guilt, Julie breaks down and confesses the full story about what happened between her, Ray, and Ben Willis. Terrell blames Hestis, the hotel's porter, suspecting him to be involved. The group rushes to his cabin, where they find that he had stolen a personal item from each of them, possibly for a voodoo ritual. But Hestis claims he's been trying to help. He says he figured out what was happening and tried to call for help before the radio was wrecked. He tells them he knows where there's a boat and offers to go get it. They agree.
Show us.
On the way, Hestis reveals that Ben Willis once worked at that very hotel years ago. After discovering his wife had been unfaithful, Willis murdered her in revenge, quit his job, and left the island. As they reach the outskirts, they come across two graves. One holds the remains of his wife. The other is still open, but it has Julie James' name engraved on the headstone, along with her birth and death dates. The moment turns surreal and darkly comedic, as Hestis spirals into an over-the-top monologue, spinning around while screaming in a self-parodying frenzy. The group decides to split up. Julie, Carla, and Tyrell head back to the hotel to look for weapons, while Will and Hestis go off in search of the boat. But suddenly, Hestis turns on Will and attacks him. Meanwhile, Julie, Carla, and Tyrell make their way to the hotel kitchen, hoping to grab some knives for protection. There, they run into the hotel bartender. As Tyrell leans against the stove, the fisherman's right arm suddenly bursts out from the ventilation duct, hook in hand, and drives it straight through Tyrell's neck, killing him instantly. Terrified, Julie, Carla, and the bartender flee up the stairs. After narrowly managing to save Carla, they decide to seek shelter in the storm bunker.
We're gonna get you out of here. Where are we going? A storm shelter!
Inside, they discover more dead bodies, and Will appearing injured. As Julie tries to tend to Will's wounds, she realizes he's not actually hurt. It hits her. He was the voice behind the radio contest that brought them to the island.
What's your favorite radio station, Julie? 96.7.
On the way back toward his parents' graves, Will finally reveals the truth. He's Ben Willis' son, and he's furious about what they did to his father. Just then, the fisherman appears. He pulls off the hood of his raincoat and lunges at Julie. But at the last second, Ray shows up, armed with the revolver and ready to protect her. Ray and Will get into a brutal fight.
You want him, Dad?
Enraged, he charges at Ray, but Julie grabs the gun and opens fire. She unloads round after round, showing no mercy, until the fisherman falls back into the grave that had been dug with her name on it. The next morning, Carla is found alive, and a rescue helicopter arrives to take them off the island. 1 year later, Ray and Julie are living together, now married. But even with time passed, there's a lingering sense of caution. They haven't fully let their guard down. One night before going to bed, Julie decides to do a final check of the house. She notices an open window and muddy footprints on the floor. Trying to stay calm, she convinces herself it's nothing. But then, reflected in a mirror under the bed, she sees him, Ben Willis. Both films were box office hits, And even though critics tore them apart, they became a staple of early 2000s pop culture. Their legacy only grew stronger when the parody genre blew up, especially with the Scary Movie franchise poking fun at the iconic scenes everyone remembered.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
You! Man! Bobby, look at my car, man. My dad's gonna freak.
Oh my God! He's killing you!
Even though it's technically a trilogy, the third film, I Always Know What You Did Last Summer, was such a cheap, poorly made mess that even the producers decided to pretend it never happened. It had zero connection to the original storyline and was basically just an attempt to cash in on the title's leftover fame. The only link was a quick mention of the urban legend, the fisherman killer with a hook who hunted down his victims. In 2021, there was a half-hearted attempt to revive the franchise with a new TV series based on the original film. The idea was to dig deeper into the town's backstory and its residents. But with bland characters, zero chemistry, and a plot that leaned more into teen drama than actual horror, the show completely flopped and got canned after just one season. Columbia Pictures finally made the right call in 2025 by releasing a proper sequel to I Still Know What You Did Last Summer from 1998, completely ignoring the forgettable straight-to-DVD third installment from 2006. The new film brings back the original duo, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. Now we just have to wait and see where the franchise goes next. Will they stick to the classic slasher formula or shift towards psychological horror and suspense? Either way, the real winner of this saga might just be Freddie Prinze Jr., who found love with Sarah Michelle Gellar on the first film set. And they're still going strong over 25 years later. If you enjoyed this recap and want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. What movie franchise would you like to see next? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.